This is Jeff Mason with Reuters. We're joined today by Russ Tice, a former official at the NSA. Mr. Tice, tell us a little bit about your reaction to the president's remarks today and what it means.
Well, one thing I noticed, it didn't seem like there was a lot about having some kind of pushback from getting information from NSA. I mean, he's talking about oversight, but right now oversight involves going to NSA and them telling you what they're doing. So if NSA is lying about what they're doing, there's no mechanism to determine whether they're telling the truth or not. And I don't think that was covered, and it should be. If you have an advocate at the White House who's saying that's fine, but you have to have someone inside NSA who is not part of the intelligence community and it does not have a dog in a fight somehow that influences them to basically be a shill for the intelligence community.
So do you think Obama went far enough today?
Oh, absolutely not. And they set all these nodes up domestically to spy on the American citizens. So that sort of thing was not addressed. Another thing was not addressed is, they mentioned the metadata, everyone's metadata. But in reality, NSA has been collecting word for word content of the American citizens. So that is something the NSA is lying about. And they've lied about the abuses in the past. NSA has targeted Congress, they've targeted the Supreme Court, they've targeted top-level generals and admirals, they've targeted the press and the media, and a whole bunch of other folks, lawyers and law firms, and this was between 2002 and 2005, which I was witness to, and I held that sort of information in my hand. NSA is not talking about that either.
What do you think the American people should take away from his speech today?
The meat of the issue is the network to do this is still intact. So the capability exists, even if you believe this president is the most benevolent in the world. What about the next president, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the potential for abuse with future presidents? When this system, this monster that we've set up, still exists, anyone down the line can use that monster to basically turn our country into a totalitarian police state. I mean, all the way police state. So, in my opinion, that we have to kill this baby in the cradle right now. And that means unplug all these nodes around the country and say we will not go after domestic communications, except when we have a warrant under probable cause. We'll go to the telecommunications company and we'll say, we want the records for this individual because we have probable cause they've committed a crime.
Now, the president and the White House and other officials have suggested that they still need this type of capability to protect Americans. And some people have said that if this type of system had been in place before September 11th, that those attacks could have been prevented. Do you think that the steps that he took today, which you obviously don't think are far enough, could lead to Americans being less safe at all?
Well, it depends. That's the argument that basically says, we need to violate our constitutional liberties to protect you. And that's what that argument is. That means we don't have a rule of law and we don't have a constitution anymore. Well, that's not a good thing for the national security in the long run of our citizens. Like Ben Franklin said, if you're going to give up your freedom and liberty for security, you deserve neither. So why don't we just put a camera in every room, a digital camera in every room, in every home in the United States? Wouldn't that be great? I mean, we would have the ability to see and then digitize it and store it in the big facility in Utah. That would be great for security, wouldn't it?
You raised the point of whether or not the NSA will go further and whether or not any brakes were actually put on it today, and you seem to suggest that they weren't.
They weren't, no. You have to have pushback if you're going to have oversight. There's no pushback. What capability do you have to really get inside NSA to make sure they're not lying to you?
What happens next?
So, in my opinion, for this to go any further, to have real reform, as far as I'm concerned, we take all those nodes out of the country. I'm all for spying against foreigners. That was our job. I was a SIGINT officer. I spied against foreigners. I broke foreign laws. If I got caught, I could be in a foreign jail for a lot of the stuff I did. But when it came to spying on my own people, wrong. No, we're not doing that. And that's when I had to stand up and say, we can't do this.
What you're saying is the line should be drawn in the U.S.
The line is drawn domestically because our Constitution protects the American people. Our Constitution does not protect someone in Pakistan or someone in Germany, for that matter. It protects our American citizens, and that's where I draw the line. But when it came to doing these things and turning our capabilities against the American people, that's when I made my oath. It was to make sure I protected the Constitution of the United States against enemies both foreign and domestic. And I always thought to myself, especially when I was young, right, in the Air Force, I'm like, who are they talking about, domestic enemies, Well, now I know. The agency I work for is now a domestic enemy of our Constitution. And it's just a horrific thing that's happened. It has to stop.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Mason, reporting for Reuters.